Hello and welcome to the GMI Hub online. We are so glad you could join us this evening. We are going to be talking to two amazing people. We're going to be talking about the subject of writing missionary-minded music. So we'll get into that a bit more. But first, let me just talk about what's going on. We are on YouTube, GMI Hub online. Yeah, that's right. We also have a website we want you to visit at your leisure, gmihub.ca. Now on there's some really special things we want you to look at. We have a hub happening, which is a monthly newsletter which goes out through email. And if you want to partake in that or have that received, or if you want to be in it, that's another thing. You can put your name and your email on the website at gmihub.ca in the Hub Happenings area, and we will send you this monthly newsletter. Now, there's also something really special about this newsletter, is if you have a song you're producing, or if you have an event that you want to promote, if you just tell us, give us the permission to put that on in the Hub Happening, and we will put it in there. So everybody who gets the Hub Happening will know about what you're doing. Pretty cool, huh? Now, there's something else coming up. Of course, we talked about this last year, the Family Christmas Volume 1. It was so good, we're going to do it again. That's right. Family Christmas Volume 2 is coming at you. And we have got new opportunities for you to submit your songs for the 2021 Christmas Compilation Project. You want to find out more? It's on the gmihub.ca. Click the link on there to find out more. We're accepting submissions for the Family Christmas Volume 2 up until June 13th, I believe, is the last day. Now, also, something that's really cool just happened. This is so cool. GMI Hub Listening Party. Now, the GMI Hub Listening Party is something we just announced today for the first time. This Thursday, May 13th, we want you, if you feel like it, to bring us your song. Let us hear your song so we can take the time to talk it through with you and listen to it. And if you want some feedback, some friendly feedback, please. It would be so cool to sit and just chat with you guys. It's going to be an open Zoom call. It's going to be fun. The details are going to be, we have to email you the link. So you have to get it to us. So here's how you do it. You go to the gmihub.ca. You'll see if you want to get your song for the listening party. It's right there, the information, click on there, and it's going to be, if you're a songwriter, you want some friendly input for your songwriting, GMI Hub team, and we'll talk about what you're writing about. And that's May 13th, okay, 7 p.m. Say 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, so that if you're in those time zones, that'll be great. So register or get your song in gmihub.ca. Very cool. I'm looking forward to that. That's so cool. Brand new happening in the GMI Hub. So I'm looking forward to that. Right, so let's get into it today. I'll just start off by saying my name is Dale Borland.
And I'm Cheryl Dewick. I had to unmute myself. So glad to see you all again. And thank you for joining us on this wonderful Monday. I am so excited today because we are going to be talking about songwriting from a different perspective, but from the position of knowing your mission. This is very, very important. We have two wonderful guests with us. We have all the way from Nashville, we have John Chisum. He is with Nashville Christian Songwriters. He's the founder of that. And he's been, he's been helping and mentoring songwriters all over the world for the last 6 years, but he got mentored under, oh my gosh, I just lost his name. I can't believe it. Gaithers, Bill Gaither, Gil and Gloria Gaither. He got mentored by them. And he was also, if you're familiar with Integrity Music, he was one of the songwriters, one of the main songwriters for Integrity Music. So we are so thrilled to have John here. Thank you so much for being here, John. And we also have Allie Matthews, multi-award winning singer, songwriter. Style is, she covers several different styles. If you've listened, she actually launched a new EP back in the fall called Patches of Blue, right? Called Patches of Blue. A lot of amazing songs there. I love her heart behind it because each song tells a story, and I'm not even gonna to blow the lid off of it. I want her to talk about this a little bit more. But I thank you so much, Allie, for being here. Welcome. Now, both of you have to unmute so we can hear you.
I thought you had us muted for a reason and didn't
No,
want us to
Okay.
talk yet. So.
There we
need you
go.
guys.
There we go.
We want to hear
Yeah.
you.
No, we muted them because we don't
Hey.
want to hear them talking. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, we want to unpack the idea of mission. Okay. Now, I know you both probably hear this very often. If you encounter a singer, songwriter, they'll say, I write songs because I feel called to write a song. And I know, John, you just recently did a workshop on this. What do you tell them when they say, I'm called to write a song? What do you say to them?
Well, first of all, let me say again what a delight it is to be here with you, Cheryl and Dale and Allie, and to really take a few moments to unpack this, because I think there's so much cultural mythology around what it means to be called in ministry and what it means to lay your life down, quite literally, to fulfill something that on the outside looks really glamorous, but the back office, can be quite messy sometimes. And what it really takes to get there to where, when we look at people on stage, beautiful people like Allie, up there doing her thing, we don't know all the hours of practice and songwriting and,
True.
networking and promoting and recording and, all the things that you do to engage with an audience. And we desire to do that, but we often are pretty unwilling to pay the price, of the time and the effort and the money, to be trained and to go do that. So it's a very heartfelt kind of a topic for me, because I've been walking in my calling since I was 18 years old, and that was years ago. And no, seriously, I came to Christ as an 18-year-old, and I grew up in a very musical family. And the first thing I wanted to do was to write a song about Jesus. And I dreamed of having songs recorded and making records, and never dreamed that one day I'd be standing here looking back on a 40-year ministry of making music, hundreds of songs recorded, worked with some of the best in the world. And it's amazing. And yet it would take all night and all day and all next week to totally unpack that. But for me, when I talk to songwriters, I'm always trying to help them really unpack what their core mission is, because we can all say, I want to use my talents to glorify Jesus, and that's great, right? Or I want to bring people into worship, and that's great, but it takes an awful lot to really get there. And so people probably think I'm a slap in the face or a wet blanket, but it takes effort, right? So I could have kept going. I'm long-winded. I'm working with a book author. He's coaching me, and he called me loquacious the other day.
Whoa.
Oh, dear.
Said I was loquacious. So I'm gonna try to give short answers.
Well, this is a conversation. And you know what? I was really amazed to find out that you and Allie met each other even before we connected here on Zoom. So what's the story behind all that? I'd love to hear it. Allie, let's hear from you.
Hi. Hey. Well, thank you for having me here. I've been looking forward to this so much. And yes, I was surprised when I saw John's name. I thought, I know John. Not only do I know him, but I love him. And John was one of those, for me as a songwriter, he was one of those dream come true things where he was pastoring at a church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I did not know him at all, but he was searching, I think, for some Christmas music, new Christmas music. And I'm the Christmas girl, of course. I've got lots of original Christmas music. And he found my music online, got in touch with me just to say, I found your music and I really enjoy it. So it was an encouragement that he called me. But then he said, after I think we had touched base, over a year or two, and he said, I've got to get you to my church here. Can we make that happen? And so we did, and ended up having a really special, wonderful full weekend at this big church. We don't have as big churches here, but it was a big church and hundreds of people. And they all came out to my concert, and I was just, I sold every single CD that I brought. This was
Isn't
about,
that
I
great?
think,
You should have brought more. Yeah.
Huh.
I know it was 8 or 9 years ago, but it's such a sweet memory for me, and we've kept in touch since your move to Nashville and all that's happened. So so this is a real joy. It's a nice little reunion for the two of us as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's neat.
Yeah, that was a great weekend because the thing I loved about Allie immediately was just the authenticity of her music and the melodic nature of her music. And it didn't feel like she was really trying to compete with other people, that she was just being who she is as a beautiful singer songwriter. And I love the artistic quality of what you do, Allie, and that just kind of drew me in. And I knew that the church I was working with at the time would really love you, and they certainly did. And people ask me about you even now, and that's been almost a decade ago. But just so proud of you, and proud of how you've lived into your calling without, I mean, I don't know your own struggles, but it's seemingly without compromising who you are artistically.
So, Allie,
There you go.
going on your website, I saw that you love to write music that connects people. And I think you go right to the heart on this one, like their emotions through, and I kind of got the sense that it's telling your story as well. Was this part of your mission?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I have to say, my calling or my mission really through my music is to invite people into a conversation. I actually, now I don't want to be controversial, but I have a little bit of a problem sometimes with the word mission, just because of, how it's thought of globally. When we hear mission, we think of Mission Impossible. We think of a task. We got to go out there and get it done and report back that it's done. And immediately, I think as soon as you think like that and talk like that as an artist, you bring into it a power differential where I'm saying, I've got something, it's almost like this is going to be a rescue mission. You know what I mean? My songs are there to rescue you. And that's something I don't want to do, because that right away cuts off the potential of connection. And what I love to do, the way I look at my art and my music is, I just want to offer people, here's my story, here's a little piece of my life, something that affected me, and how is that for you? How did you connect with this? Does this resonate with you? And I think by keeping it, clear of that us and them kind of thing, where it's like, I'm gonna fix you, I'm gonna bring you something that you're missing, and I've got it all together, and it just that makes me cringe a little bit. And I think just in general, like watching the whole, I've been involved in Christian music, gospel music for decades. And I think the one thing I've learned, and I'm a kid who when I was 14, I wanted to be a missionary. Do you know what I mean? Like I understand the concept of mission, but what I've learned as a songwriter and as a performer over the years is that I think often the oversight in Christian music is that in order to be Christian music, it has to be overly didactic. And I don't think that's true. I don't think, I think I can write a song about my granddaughter, and that can be a Christian song. I can write a song that says God is good, God is good, God is good. Or I can write a song about my granddaughter, and that song will also say God is good.
So it brings me to mind that Allie, you've done you before 2000, which you were in music, but you released your first patchwork, I think, on 2000.
Right. Yeah.
And then 2021, the next year, was Angel's Wings or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that. And then, here's what. Where You Remain is the one after that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So and then 2006, you were talking right up to, your writing style. Okay. When you think back to when you first put out Patchwork, how you kind of wrote that, the transition between then And coming up to today, where you're taking that 6-song EP you just released last August, how do you feel that journey that you've come from to where you are now? What's the transition been like?
Well, I think it's good to recognize that it's okay for your mission or your calling to evolve and to change. And for me, it definitely has. I know when I first started recording, I was already married. I had 2 young kids, and this was an anxiety I'd had for years. Like, I really got to give this a try. And, you know, this whole music industry thing, but it took me until I was almost 30 to really say, I'm going to do this now. And when I did, I had this clarity that I was married to a pastor. Our lives were in the church. I was singing it, you know, on the worship team, but I didn't want to write, you know, music just for the church. I was a real singer songwriter and coming from a real folk background of storytelling. And so I wasn't writing worship songs. I wasn't, you know, and that's what Patchwork was. It was just a collection of songs that were just my life experiences. And so it didn't come across like as a very Christian album, because it wasn't a Jesus album, you know. But at the same time, my faith was infused in all of those songs and those experiences. And so I would have people say, you know, are you a spiritual person? Are you, you know, so they would find that in the songs. And I think it's a much smoother way for me personally, not for everyone. It's not the same for everyone, but for me to connect with people is without that, you know, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to, you know, it's more like, I'm going to show you my brokenness and see how you connect with that.
Maybe we'll get into unpacking a bit more about how you're writing, but that's a really good way to explain to what I was asking for.
And John, thank you, Ali, for saying that, because that is interesting. Like, we say mission, and I never even thought of Mission Impossible. I was already, when you said that, I was thinking of the, you know, the theme song. Dun, dun, yeah, I was already there.
No, right?
I was already there. But I'm curious now, John, when you talk about mission, what does that mean? What's your definition of mission for the singer?
Cheryl, I mean, again, that's such a deep question, but I love what Ali just said. And for me, when I think about mission, I come back to that moment when I came to Christ, and, you know, I hadn't grown up in a Christian home. I was a pretty messed up kid. I mean, that was, gosh, the 70s, and, you know, pretty messed up. And Jesus swept in with a love I'd never, ever, ever felt. And that's still the core of my mission, right? I'm still here because of that. You know, it stuck, right? It hasn't gone away through all the ups and downs. And my personal calling, mission, motivation is really to connect people with Jesus and that love that I felt. I didn't even know that was a thing, and it changed me forever. And so that's always the bedrock. But when I look in the scriptures and I see the different vocations that people had and callings, if you will, you know, we think of Paul's Damascus Road, you know, calling, and, you know, just knocked off his high horse and called, and then all he did was suffer. Man, that guy suffered. You know, he even said, I bear in my body the sufferings of Christ. And so for me, and just as a quick backdrop here, with what I do here at Nashville Christian Songwriters, I talk to songwriters all the time who might be interested in our coaching or what we're doing. And I've done over almost 2,500 calls myself personally. And every single one of them, and people listening here will identify with this, they've all said, I started writing when I was a teenager, which I did too. You know, I feel called, I feel passionate, right? And they use those words. But when I look in the scriptures, a calling is a call to lay our lives down. And we're all called, right? We all have that calling to lay our lives down. But I know that there are specific callings, missions, motivations, if you want to mix all those up, to write and communicate in music. You know, we have those of us who feel this have some kind of musical ear or inclination, however developed or not it might be. And I'm gonna be really vulnerable here, you guys. I was, you know, on these calls, and of course I'm telling people about our programs and what we do, and I'm thinking, these people can't all be called. How can all these people be called, you know? And I started kind of feeling like, you know, whether they enrolled in my program or not, and especially if they didn't, it's like, they're not called. But, you know, I was humbled by the Lord, and I feel like, you know what, they really are called. They just may not be very far down the road, right, with what they're doing. So for me, it always comes back to that basic motivation. And I think another good word for it is vocation. You know, there's a vocation around music to where, let me try to bring it into clearer focus. We talk in terms of stewardship rather than business. I'm not in the music business. I'm a coach. I teach. We're educators and mentors. But what we're about is kingdom stewardship. And to me, if you've got a calling or what you feel is a mission to share God's love. I was talking to a guy today who feels like he's got this really prophetic Jeremiah kind of hard word, you know, for people. And I'm like, well, if that's your mission, you know, then hey, you know, you can fashion songs and do that. Or people that come from brokenness and they want to minister to people. You know, there are all kinds of, you know, subgroups, if you will, or different kinds of topics, but the general vocation is to capture the intimations of the Holy Spirit, you know, those hooks, ideas, whatever, and then fashion them in cogent ways that people can latch onto and love and find what you found. So it's stewardship, it's kingdom focused. It's not, hey, let's go try to be Lauren Daigle, you know, or whoever. Let's don't try to be those people. Let's be us.
Try to be you. Yeah. Exactly.
And so our mission is to help you or songwriters find uncover all the crud that's on top of it to get down to that core thing that you're supposed to do. I'm loquacious. I told you. I told you I am loquacious.
Oh yeah, but
I could take the whole time.
I just love your heart, John. I love your heart. It's fabulous. Hey, let me just interject and let everybody know that thank you so much for watching. This is GMIHub Online. We have a plethora of videos for you to peruse and check out. If you like what you're seeing, tell somebody about it. Share the love, and let us know that you like it by clicking on that like button. That'd be great. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. That would be just so encouraging to us. And we just want to also let you know that we have an incredible opportunity for you to receive a newsletter through email every month. If you just go on to gmihub.ca, our website there, and you go to the little subscribe button, and you'll see that you get a Hub Happening email every month. And it basically just gives you an update on what's going on in that as well. If you're an artist or you're a person who wants to promote some of your music, we'd love to tell people about it. So let us know. Give us permission to share that, and we will gladly put that in our Hub Happenings so that when people receive those monthly updates, they will have your information in it. So we're trying to create a community here, and you could be part of it. We also want to talk about the Christmas album coming up. Ali was talking earlier about her Christmas project, which is really good, but we have a Christmas project coming up as well. Last year we had one for our Christmas 2021, and now 2020, and now we have the 2021. So this is the volume 2. So we want you to partake. So calling all songwriters for Family Christmas Volume 2. We're now accepting submissions for 2021 Christmas Compilation Project. If you go to gmihub.ca, you will see down at the bottom of the first page, find out more, click on there, and you can submit your song, find out how to do that. And we'd love to be able to have your song potentially be a part of our next Christmas project. Also, Cheryl, do you want to talk a bit about, because I'm blah, 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 talking about the listening party that we got coming up?
Yes, on May 13th. in order to help all you songwriters that are out there, we decided let's have a listening party. So if you are writing some songs and you just kind of want to, have a few ears listen and kind of give you some feedback or just come to enjoy it, why don't you sign up to be part of our listening party? That's happening May 13th at 7 p.m. Just go to our website, gmihub.ca/events, and you will see the information there. You can also register. This will be a closed Zoom event. So if you sign up, you'll find all the information there. We'll send you the link. And if you want, you can send your song in advance so that we can listen to it a little earlier and give you some better feedback. But if you feel comfortable just talking to us or playing it for us, all the same, it's a listening party. It's just something that we just want to do just to help you along in your writing career. And we're going to get back to our guests.
Absolutely. Now, John, I wanted to just start a little bit talking more about back whenever you were first started writing. You were probably really young. When did you start writing songs?
Grew up in a musical family. My dad and mom were very musical, but I was a singer in those early days and heading into classical music. And then when Jesus just, T-boned me, it was like, that was all over. And started singing in the church and dreamed of getting a song recorded. And interestingly enough, I sent a song to Nashville, got rejected, and just pretty much swore I'd never try that again. Years later, my wife and I, we were married for 3 years, we were newlyweds at the time. And we moved to Nashville from another city to take a job, and it fell through. And we had $40 and no place to live before that was popular. Yes.
So that was 2015, whenever you were in Nashville, and you brought together a bunch of people to start an organization. Nashville Christian Songwriters. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it was 83 when we moved here the first time and wound up just homeless. And I met Bill Gaither and Gary McSpadden, and they started mentoring me.
Wow.
And signed me to a deal before I could even really write.
Could you imagine having Bill Gaither as a writing mentor? Oh my gosh.
You know what, Dale? I didn't even know who he was.
Are you kidding me?
Well, and you know what? That's been a long time ago. And, he's more Bill Gaither than he was Bill Gaither.
Yeah, I guess.
Then, right? So,
Talk about rock star.
I wound up serving with them for 7 years.
Wow.
And, they just taught me so much that I teach. And so started writing and falling on my face and writing and falling on my face. And I remember he and Gloria would look at my songs and they would say, yeah, this is sweet. It's nice, but who's going to care about this in 100 years? And those were the kind of lessons that grew me up fast. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Well, yeah, I was just talking about what you came from to where you are now, kind of giving a perspective.
Yeah.
And we can keep on. Just say.
Well, okay, all right. So I wound up serving with them. I started getting songs placed, and I started encouraging other writers. And they hired me to go around Nashville. And back in the day, I was called a tune plugger, and I was literally a salesman. And I would go meet with Sandy Patty or Larnell Harris or Steve Green or the producers or the record company people, anybody that would talk to me. I would take little cassettes and lyric sheets and I would say, here's a new song that I or so-and-so wrote. And we think it'd be great for whoever. And they would listen and reject or accept it. And back in the late 80s, we were like the hottest thing in town. We were just blowing up and winning all the awards and such. And then that kind of came to a screeching end when I got baptized in worship. It was just a remarkable spiritual event in my life. And suddenly I didn't really care so much about writing for artists. And I just wanted to write vertically oriented worship. And so the company I was with, they're like, you've really changed. And so I left there not knowing that within a few months I was going to be hired at Integrity Music. And I wound up managing 18 full-time songwriters. And I wound up being like an A&R guy over 200 pieces of product, just publishing thousands of songs, teaching for them, traveling all over the world. And it was just an amazing time. And so, that was so many songs ago, so many years. And when we came back here, I'd been serving the church in Michigan. And when that came to a necessary end, we came back to Nashville in 2015, and it was like deja vu. We weren't homeless, but I was jobless, and
Right.
we didn't know what we were going to do. And we had a little more than $40 this time, but wound up meeting with a business coach every week. And he's like, John, you got to do something. You got to do something. And I'm like, I know I got to do something. But by the time I drove home from the meeting, I didn't want to do whatever it was we talked about doing. And one day he just got really mad at me. He's like, you have all this knowledge, all this experience, and you're not sharing it with anybody.
Yeah.
And, talk about calling and mission. This was one I resisted. And I went home that day and I thought, well, if I just started a little online something, what would it be? And guys, I started just putting in all kinds of combinations of Christian music, and, they're all gone, right? And when I plugged in NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and it was available for $13.99, that's the minute that I knew that's what God was calling me to. And now we have, it's just amazing, in our 6th year. And so, that's a mission. That's a calling to take what you have, like Allie was saying a while ago, and bring it to people who need what you have. That's the real calling, isn't it?
So now, John, you're a songwriter yourself, but your heart is for artists. I can see, because you got this. Let's talk a bit about the boot camp. What is that all about?
We changed the name, first of all, Dale, because
the humble beginnings. So.
Well, you know what? We called it boot camp for several years. It's our 8-week online coaching. And we have a new group starting tonight, immediately after this, as a matter of fact. But we changed it from boot camp because we figured out that was scaring people away. It's like, that's way too much work, right? So we changed it to just NCS coaching. And we actually, my heart is to bring my 35 years of working on all sides of this. And just, I hope that my ceiling is someone else's floor.
Oh, amen to that.
So we get in and we coach and critique, and we have hours and hours, dozens of hours of training materials, and we go hard at it to help people step into a better version of themselves in their music and in their songwriting. So
very cool.
Allie, you recently released an EP. I say recently, but I'll say in the fall. Your EP, Patches of Blue. And as I know we were talking about this before, you in your earlier recordings, you had more of the folky kind of singer-songwriter, play the guitar, very simple. And then you got to Patches of Blue, and it got a little funky, a little fun, and I'd love to hear your story behind how you got there, like what made the change. I'd love to hear your story behind. Well, I just saw your note, John.
Yeah, John, you didn't have to react like that. Nobody else would know what he did.
Oh,
it's so funny.
Oh, John.
Well, I think when it comes down to it, I am really a folky. I love it, a guitar in my hand, and I love to sing stories. But I also, a lot of the music that I'm really drawn to is jazzy and some, R&B and some, a little bit of everything. And so I do love to experiment with music, and that's why I don't really want to fit into one specific category. But yeah, I definitely did. This was a little bit more experimental, this last project, and I did a song that Joel Parisian sang it with me. I don't know if you know him from New World Sun. Just an incredible voice, incredible. He played keys on it, and it's got the real R&B thing. But that song, just came from It's called Looking Up. And, over 1 week, a couple of years ago in June, I heard about so many suicides, and I was surrounded by friends and family who were struggling with mental illness. And so it was a song that came out of that, just an encouragement song that, that you have value and you are loved and just keep looking up, so that was the simple message of that song. But I've sort of gone all over the map. I still come back to just being a pretty simple acoustic singer-songwriter. But this last, I put that EP out in the fall because of what we'd all been through in 2020. And they just seemed to be songs that I'd released a couple of singles, and they were songs that hadn't made it to an album. They were just kind of sitting around, and I thought, wow, each of these really is the kind of message, or not even message, but just the kind of story that I think people need right now. And it's just, we need to feel connected to one another. And these were all songs that, one of them was about the death of my father. And it was a song that I wrote many years ago, and I'd recorded it a few times, but it just, like, every time I would sing it, it's called Wide Awake. And I thought, man, that's about this year. It's about 2020. It's about, what's happening here. This is so difficult. And yet I believe that God doesn't make mistakes. So what am I supposed to be learning from this? And so that was just a little collection of songs that I just wanted to release in 2020.
Do you find your writing to be do you have a writing session? Do you say, okay, I'm going to go writing now? Or is it, oh, I got an idea, and are you poetically inclined? Do you like to write poetry, and that's a basis for the song? Or do you sit and strum your guitar? How does is there a certain I mean, that sometimes a song may come about, but generally, how do you write your songs?
Well, all of the above, all of the things you said are part of my process. And it's honestly, it's not always the same for every song, but I do always recognize that it's a job and it's work, just like anything. People get up and they go to their 9-to-5 job. I don't necessarily do it that way, but I need to put the work into it. The 10,000 hours. Like it's true. It doesn't just. A lot of people think, oh, you're a songwriter. Well, did the angels descend and just drop these songs in your lap? That's what it feels like. It feels magical to people, right? But no, it's a lot about, what John teaches in his courses. Like, just, there are fundamentals to good songs. And I've written way more lousy songs than I have good songs. And so you just got to keep working at it. And so for me, the process is, a lot of it is incubation, the incubation period where I have an idea for something, or, I've had some lines and thoughts in my head, and then it just stays there. It stirs in my head for a long time, until sometimes I have to push myself to actually finish it. Like, let's get the job done now. It's been nesting in my head, and I connect things in my life to this one idea that I've been stirring up, and at some point you have to sit down and just get it all out. And then
it sounds like it's very organic, though. There's less.
Oh yeah.
Maybe John's being from a writing point of view. I know that we had one of our guests not too long ago. Carolyn Ahrens was on, and she is an incredible coach when it comes to songwriting. And she has this whole methodology and a recipe and a way to put John, maybe you have that type of a thing where Allie's more of this is just coming to me and I'm just going to write it. But I don't know. What about you, John? How's that process?
Oh, it's all the above. It's not real mechanical for me either. But after all these years, I've failed so many times that I know what not to do. And so I can kind of skip all that and get to the heart of it pretty quickly. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't have a formula necessarily, but
it's like anything. You do it enough, there's a certain knack that you start to.
I think so. And I teach from, I have a tool called the Song Builder's Blueprint, and we give it away a lot. I'm happy to give the link to you guys, and you can share it out. I'm sorry I didn't think about that before, but we offer that just to, just to help people. It's like a 10-page download. But it occurred to me when we started our company 5 years ago that I did use a process, but it was an unspoken kind of innate process that I had learned, and it had never been codified. I mean, I'm sure people probably have their own processes and all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And for me, I sat down one day and I started thinking, okay, what does an opening line of a song do? Right. And then, well, what does a second line do in basically in a, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus form? What's the function of these lines? And what are the functions of these sections? And I kind of came up with a rationale of what I did. And I did it without thinking. And Allie probably does as well. And I found kind of a symbiotic relationship in a very positive way from between the first line and the second line, how the second line depends on the first line. The first line doesn't make as much sense without what the second line is saying, and then the third and fourth, and then section by section. And it just became a blueprint, but I still don't think about it, but I teach it so that others who aren't used to or don't have kind of second nature in this can begin to think about it and then let it become second nature. Let me give you a quick example. When I was a kid, I took voice lessons. I told you a moment ago, and I was just a church singer, and I'd never learned classical voice. And I remember walking into my first voice lesson with the lady that was old as dirt, and she's probably been dead a long time, sang opera. And I remember she would say, okay, stand with your feet shoulder, width apart, tuck your pelvis, stomach in, chest out, shoulders back, chin up, breathe deep, and now sing. And it was like, oh, and I think
This is
sometimes
so uncomfortable.
it's like, and I think sometimes when we teach songwriting, it feels like we're putting people in that kind of a bind or that kind of a straitjacket, or telling them to do something that's awkward because they haven't learned the underlying principles of great communication. And that's what we're trying to do, is get all the fluff out of there, all the extraneous words, all the ideas. I mean, a lot of aspiring songwriters will put 17 ideas in the first verse. And it's like, no, there's only room in a song for one idea. And so it's getting rid of all that stuff, but it can feel very restraining and confining when you start teaching it. So I hope that blueprint, can help people. And I'll put it in the chat box, and maybe you guys can share it out.
That's great. Yes, please. So before we go on, I just want to remind everybody, thank you for watching this GMI Hub online. We're having a great conversation. We hope you're enjoying it. And if you are, share the experience. Let people know who you know, so they can have this opportunity to share this time with us. Maybe we'll save to the end of the show. We'll talk a bit more about what's going on with our website. We have a new project, Christmas project that's coming up. We want you to be involved in that. Stick around to the end to find out more about that. But go to GMIHub.ca, and you can look down on the front page, and you'll see lots of great things that are happening, including our Hub Happening, which is a mail out every month. And we have a listening party. And I just wanted to bring this up a little bit, because we had talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think it's really imperative that we kind of talk a bit more about it. So Cheryl, kind of talk to us, what was the reason for the listening party?
The reason for the listening party is just to encourage people who are writing songs to give them a listening ear. I mean, there's a lot of times we write songs all on our own, and I'll use this phrase that I thought that had come to me this past week, which is, alone we can be great, but together we can be awesome. And we just figured, if we have a listening party, it gives you a chance to be awesome. So feel free to submit your songs, or to sign up to be part of the listening party. We'd love to hear your songs and help you become awesome.
Thank you. That'd be so cool. GMIHub.ca. Find out more. Well, we were talking about how Allie has changed, as her mission kind of has changed, and I think John, maybe you could also say the same. As you grow and you learn and you move forward, the mission that God has given to you expands or changes, and it incorporates more things, so in the experiences of life. And but when we get down to the mission, what do you mean by when someone asks, you say to them, what is your mission in your music? What are you actually asking? You could define that more. Like if I was to ask somebody, you said you have a mission. What is your mission? So what are you asking them?
Are you asking me this or John?
Anybody, both of you. Because
Okay.
they're looking at, when you talk about, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I have a good friend, my best friend, actually. She does a lot of speaking and encouraging of educators, and she is always talking about the compelling why. And I almost like this better than that mission word that I've already expressed how I have a little bit of concern about. It just doesn't sit right with me all the time. But a compelling why is like, we know what it is we do and how we do it, but the why is the piece that is where the energy is and where the excitement is. And I think that's the part that's going to sustain you through the challenges. Yeah. So it's important, I think, to know what your why is. What is, like, why is it? What, and that's, I think, it's one way of looking at mission. And it can change over the years as well. I think my compelling why has changed as I've grown, as I've learned, as I've recognized things. And the way that you know that, I think it's just what gets you excited. I think that's how God works. It's the way the Holy Spirit just, not everybody's excited about the same things. I remember I heard a Lyle Lovett song, and there was 2 lines in it that I just thought that's the best songwriting I've ever heard in my life. And I got I was like jumping up and down about these 2 lines in a song. And I'm like, am I crazy? Like, why do I get so excited about this? Well, it's because my compelling why is to write really meaningful lyrics. And so it resonated with me, right? So I think, we can't underestimate the power of that, just that passion and excitement that we can't explain. We can't manufacture it, right? We can't, it's just there. And a lot of people, their compelling why is wanting to write wanting to write worship songs for their church, and that is what drives them. That's what they, in their songwriting, that's what they want to do. Then there's people like me who, I've gone through phases in my life where I wrote some worship songs, I released some worship songs, but it wasn't necessarily the thing that was driving me. And then I write songs about, experiences or my family or something. And those are the ones that where the tears are there. And that's, it's where my heart is. And I think we can't underestimate that the Holy Spirit will take that and use it. And we might not, if we narrow down our mission to one thing, then we may be missing what God wants to do with our particular unique gift. So I just love the idea of creating something out of my own brokenness, and hopefully in authenticity and humility, and then giving that back to God, saying, there you go. Instead of thinking, I'm going to write music for this group, or I'm going to get this message across to these people who need it. And instead of that, I just think, write something that I can offer back to God and say, thank you for this. Thank you. Please, I don't want to put the Holy Spirit in a box and say, this person needs to be corrected in this area, and this person needs to be taught in this area. And my song is for that. It's not, my song is my own experience of life. And I give that back to God, and He works with it.
So if you're watching right now, just listen to that. What is your compelling why? Just think about that. And we talked a little while ago about, and other episodes, we talked about trying to work on a person's particular presence, branding, all this kind of stuff, and getting a story that resonates to build your brand, this kind of thing. And this may be a good starting point. Find out your compelling why and bring that into your story.
And once you have that compelling why, John, I'm going to give you a chance to say this. What are the next steps once you know your compelling why?
I think it's easy to think that we can boil it all down into a formula. And just as soon as we do, God blows the formula up, right? And if you had 10 writers in a panel who were successful and you went down the road, you'd have 10 different stories, 10 different pathways, right? And your path's not mine, etc. But it does come down to that mysterious scripture, the mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. Proverbs 16:9. That's just, I don't know. I know that when I look back at my life, there is an overarching theme of just being so deeply impacted by the love of Jesus, a tremendous amount of emotional healing that I'm still experiencing and still in need of. And worship was a huge part of that for me. And so worship and healing have been kind of spiritual, emotional healing, whatever, psychological healing. Most people think I'm still pretty crazy, but just those have been prevalent themes for me. In different seasons, I've been more active in writing or whatever. So it's easy to say, okay, I got my mission, like Ali was saying. I've got the thing. I've got this why, and so I'm going to go and I'm going to conquer the world, like this guy telling me he had a Jeremiah call today. And I'm thinking, you're just kind of being mean. I don't know. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. You're just kind of being mean. But anyway, it's easy to say. I mean, and I kind of break it down in this webinar I've been doing into mission and then building your skill set, because that's where so many people, we work with people that from 14 years old to 80 something, and that's where most people really are lacking. It's like they've got all this feeling and this mission, but they just don't have the basic skills to get it out in a form that people can really appreciate, right? There's a lot of heart, but there's not a lot of real basic skill, making the song compelling. Even if you have a compelling why, your song has to be compelling as well. And so there's mission, building your skill set, production, getting it to where it's not just, a voice memo, and thinking you're going to attract people with that, the production. And then there's the marketing or engaging side where you do have some kind of presence. You do have a website or a YouTube channel, or you have an outlet. And, these days we have more publishing promotional power in our cell phones than entire companies had 30 years ago. It's all just, the power is in your hand. The problem is that we're just floating in a sea of mediocrity. We're floating in a sea where people are throwing out very bad first drafts and calling it their song. And it's like, you're just adding to the problem, get better at this. If you're really called, this is your mission, let's get better, write better songs and be a better communicator, So anyway, it's easy to say it's mission, skills, production, and engaging an audience, but those things take effort and work and management, and artists and songwriters just aren't known for their management skills. And that's why there's so many managers.
Really?
Right? Yeah. You think? So, so it's tough, but it takes all those foundational elements to begin to have an awareness, or for people to be aware at all of what you're doing. You can't sit at home and just put any kind of words to any kind of melody and throw it out there somewhere and just think people are going to be attracted to it. They want to know your heart. They want to know your story. They need your compelling why to support that music. I'll give you this is not my book. I wish I had a book to promote, but if your listeners are going to get a book, How to Make It in the New Music Business, practical tips on building a loyal following and making a living as a musician. It's kind of the new music business Bible here. On page 21 or 2 or 3, it's called Why No One Cares About Your Music. And he quotes a PR guy, and he says, people will like the music but they will love you. You want to be able to tell your story in a way that people can connect with you on a personal level. So it starts with your story. It starts with who you are. And then you just work that flywheel. You just work those different elements of your mission and skills and production. It's what Allie and I've been doing all these years, just working with what God's given us and telling our story.
Wow.
One thing I'm hearing from the both of you is basically music ends up being the communication tool for one's testimony, right? As believers, we know the scripture that basically says you defeat the enemy by the blood of the lamb and the word of your testimony, but you're doing your word in music. That's what it sounds like. Am I correct in here in that assessment?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think you're otherwise you're not being authentic. And I think people do love, they love to know. My favorite concerts have been the ones where I come away feeling like I'm friends with that artist that I went to see, and that I saw, I had a peek into their life that connected me with them. And, whether the music was brilliant or not, sometimes it's about that. And people can tell when you're not authentic. People can tell when you're forcing, don't write a song because you think, oh, well, I want a song that sounds just like this Chris Tomlin song,
Right.
People are going to see through that. I think people, what they love is to hear your heart and to hear your own brokenness. And you have to be in a place of authenticity and humility in order to do that. But that's our testimony. That's it. And music is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's your story, but then you put that to words and music, and God can do so much more with that than we realize. So I think we have to really be cautious and be diligent in being authentic. And not faking it. You can figure out formulas in music. I've done it many times, listening to all these songs on the radio all sound the same. Okay, well, let's figure out the formula. And you can do that. You could do that. You can get some good musicians. You can record it, and with great producer, you could duplicate a lot of the stuff that you hear. But if it's not coming from that place of your compelling why, and I don't know, I think that shows. I think it shows. And I think when you do succeed, it's out of that humility of, oh crap, I just shared my heart with all these people. I don't know if they're gonna like, and then they do. They come to you in tears and they say, that's how I feel too. And
It's amazing.
And that is amazing, because you're right. Like, it's so easy from a writer's perspective that no one's going to want my story, but at the same time, that's exactly what people relate to. Mm-hmm. Allie, I know that you have been an inspiration to a number of our viewers. I know one in particular that we had as a panelist. She said that you were her mentor. And I thought, oh, when did you get together with her? And I think it was from a distance. She just really loved your music and loved your example of authenticity. And she has been using that in her music and has been doing really well. She's out in the West. I believe she's in Alberta, I want to say. Right. And her name is Rhonda Jensen.
Oh, Rhonda, yeah.
Yeah. So she's she really said, Allie Matthews is one of my mentors, so, and she adopted exactly your example in that sense, like just used her story and in her authenticity, expressed her music. Even in her videos, she expressed what she was going through at the time of her video, and even said that when her producers were telling her, sing like you've got victory, and she goes, but I haven't got victory yet, kind of thing. But he's like, sing it like okay, I'm going to sing like I'm trying to get victory. And even though she didn't have her victory yet in whatever she was going through, the fact that she tried and people heard her trying to get that victory, they identified with her trying to reach for that victory. Yeah. It was compelling. Like she actually attracted a lot of people because of that.
Well, and what successes, I think, come from that authenticity. And when I talk about a compelling why, my compelling why has changed and morphed a little bit through the years. And now that I'm older and I feel like when I meet a younger, songwriter, and I start to get all excited about wanting to encourage them and about the talent that I see in them and all these things. So, any mentoring like that I do is it's become part of my compelling why. I'm just like,
Right.
no, I didn't understand this when I was, 30 years ago, I didn't understand this, but listen, because I learned this and now you can do this too. And so
it sounds like you have a heart for investing in other people, and I think that is really amazing. Your website is allymatthews.com. I just want to remind everybody to go onto her website, check out what she's got going. You would love that. Also, go to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. There are lots of great resources there as well. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's amazing. There's a songwriters template for you guys. Seriously, go check it out. And I'm being very conscious of our time. And I just have to ask you guys, if anything we've said or something that has not been said, if you could just maybe sum up into 3 points or even 2 points, if there's something that you say, you know what, I want to just say this to you listeners right now, that when it comes to the mission behind your music, there's 3 things you need to be conscious of, or 2 things, whatever you want to draw from.
Oh, geez, where do you start, right? I mean, for me, my testimony is the compelling why, whether I write a song with any of those specifics in it, which I really don't think I ever have, but that's the bedrock of what I'm coming from. And I think for me, Dale and Allie and Cheryl and everybody listening, mission rarely turns out the way you think it's going to. And so to be able to, I think my first point would be to trust God with an open hand with what you think. Be willing to let him turn it all into what he wants it to be, rather than, telling him what it's going to be, no matter where it starts. If it like it did with me, just a dramatic salvation experience, or just kind of a growing knowledge of his love in your life, whatever that is, but to really trust him, and to hold it all with an open hand, and trust him to be the steward of your life. We talk about stewardship, but ultimately he's the steward of our lives. He's the good shepherd. And if we'll just listen and follow him, it's just amazing, the twists and the turns and where he'll take you.
Yeah, very good. Allie, what about you?
Well, yeah, I think it's all stuff that I've mentioned already. I just really believe in being authentic, and and that takes courage a lot of time, to share your own story, and with authenticity, and people see through it if you're not being authentic, and just humility as well. I mean, just being a musician in general, it generally means you have an ego, right? You have some kind of, or if you love performing, or if you, I mean, we all have an ego, but I think approaching songwriting with the idea of, I want to invite someone into a conversation, and that's a gentle thing. It's not a sledgehammer, right? And I think if we're really careful, I think that can be very powerful, so just, watch your ego and be generous with your music. I know a lot of people really hold it tightly, and it's very precious, but you know what? Share it. Just share I love the idea that you have with this listening party. I think things like that are amazing. We need to share music with each other, and that's how we'll know if our music is successful, if it's good. I mean, if you sing a brand new song to a room with 10 people and they're all just staring at you at the end of it, and no one's got any expression on their face, then maybe you missed it, but at the end of the song, if they're all crying and going, I know what you mean, that's
right, yeah,
then okay, that's called success. That's, then take that and move forward with that, and don't limit with your own process. Don't limit what the Holy Spirit can do with with your song, you know. So write and give it back to God. Give it back to God. Don't necessarily pinpoint your audience right away. Just say, God, this is for you to do with what you like.
That's very true. And the listening party, thanks for bringing that up. The listening party is coming up on May 13th, 7 p.m. And if you want to be part of that listening party, you have a song you want to just check out, you want to send a song earlier so we can check it out, the better sound, that's great too. You can go on to gmihub.ca. You'll see a panel in the front page there, and it says GMI Hub Listening Party, and there's some information there, and there's a register now button. So just click on there, and that'll take you to the place where you have to do your song submission and tell us about yourself. And we'd love to send you an email for the link to set up the Zoom listening party. It's going to be so much fun. If we get 20 people, if we got 200 people, doesn't matter. We're going to just have fun with it. It's going to be great. Also, remember last year, if you were watching in, we had our Christmas album, which is Family Christmas Volume 1. And it was fairly successful. We had some really good people who had put their songs in for the submission. So if you're working on a Christmas song, Allie, if you're working on a Christmas song, you can submit that song to our Family Christmas Volume 2 by simply going to gmihub.ca. And it says calling all singer-songwriters. So that's the tag you should look at. And it says there, find out more. Click on that little link there, and it'll take you to some information and show you how to submit your song and the criteria that we need to get the song on our project. And we would look so forward to you just jumping in there. And even those who were doing it last year, I think they may be excited about doing it again, which is kind of cool. And yeah, so that would be great. So go gmihub.ca.
And with all those announcements, I'm going to be sensitive with time and say thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, John. Thank you, Allie. I love your hearts. I love the fact that you're mentors at heart. And I'm hoping and praying that everyone who watches is feeling encouraged right now. If you have any questions that you would like forwarded to Allie or John, send them our way and we'll be happy to forward it to them. And I'm sure they'd be happy to answer because they have big hearts. And again, John and Allie, thank you so much for what you do. Continue doing what you do. I hope that a lot of our audience will come to you guys for for advice, and I hope that if you're going to them, that you let them know you heard them on our program.
The link will be in the description of the video, so it will give you a chance to go right to their website information for sure.
Absolutely. Just remember that GMI Hub encourages unity, community, mentorship, and talent growth. We'll be back next week with two people talking about singing. We're going to get Noreen Smith back. And we also have Paul J. McKay, who we've had before as a panelist, just not on air. So we're looking forward to having them come. Yeah. But until then, take care, keep safe, and we'll see you next week.
God bless. Bye.
Bye.